Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of The Package Tourist, hosted by yours truly, the Package Tourist in the magical mystery tour called life, Matthew DiBiase. Tonight's guest is novelist Marjorie Noble. Marjorie lives in Northern California, and when she is not writing novels, Marjorie worked in the past as a casting director for films and also as an English teacher. Today, she is an author, blogger, and graphic designer. Marjorie has published 3 novels, The Demon Rift, The Dark Side of Dreams, and her latest work, Babylon Dreams. Tonight, we will pay tribute to Marjorie's writing career. Marjorie, welcome to the show. It's a great honor and privilege to have you here. And I'd like to start off the show by asking you, would you please tell our listeners about your latest novel, Babylon Dreams? Tell us about who are the main characters and what's the story all about?
Absolutely. Babylon Dreams is actually my first science fiction novel, and the one after it is The Dark Side of Dreams, but I digress. Let me start by saying how I became interested in the science behind the science fiction. And I read an article several years ago when I was working in casting a film, and it was in Psychology Today, and it was about mind uploading. The article was by a futurist by the name of Ray Kurzweil, and he described, the possibilities of this technology where you would copy your mind, your memories, everything, and then you could upload the copy to a virtual reality program and have lunch with a friend and look however you want and play around and it would just be a wonderful, fanciful thing. But being sort of a skeptic in terms of how wonderful this sounded, I thought, well, what if you made more than one copy of yourself and you died? Who gets the family fortune? And I started thinking about the possibilities of what kind of story you could write, involving this kind of technology, and I thought of a love triangle where all 3 people have died, and they're uploaded to the same program, and what would happen. And I wasn't a writer at the time, so I suggested the plot to the director, and he liked it, but he said that I should write it. And so it sat there for quite a long time. And now, when I first started writing the novel, the first scene was a written exchange between an archivist of sort of a digital memory library and a detective who is working on behalf of people who have relatives in an after-death program that has cut off all communications with the outer world, and everyone's worried that there's something happening to their loved ones. And one thing leads to another, and the archivist is able to help the detective by providing a partial amount of someone's memory of the protagonist who is Gunter Holden. And the story is really a character study of this character of Gunter Holden. Even though the exchange between the archivist and the detective takes place in 2287, the story that comprises most of the novel takes place over 100 years earlier, when the technology was fairly new, and this industry was just catching fire, and the industry is the after-death destinations industry, and for a great down payment and a monthly you too can be uploaded to the paradise of your choice. And as the industry progresses and all the kinks are worked out, there's new laws that protect the rights of virtual citizens. It's a new market. But the question that is kind of in the background is a copy of you really you? And I envision these custom programs as VR gated communities, where the Finns were the new underclass. The archivist provides a series of memory records which becomes a first-person narrative as Günther tells his story. Günther Holden is a charming, ruthless narcissist, and he seems to be very confident. He greets this new resident, and he bragged about the wonders of his world that he has designed, and that he declares himself the owner and creator. But later on, after he says goodbye to this new resident, we learned that his files are fragmenting, and he is reliving events he wants to forget.
Wow.
So, when we meet Günther, it is 60 years after he shot himself to follow his wife and brother into a virtual reality. And he's bored, and he's restless, and he's afraid. So he hopes to repair his timeline by telling his life story to this new resident. In the meantime, there's also like an unwelcome merger that concerns him a lot. He knows what that could mean. That he would lose control because there would be new people that would be making decisions about his world from the outside. And ultimately, he does lose his company to a ruthless con man, and the new owner is the leader of a religious cult whose members manifest as herd animals. And there's harsh consequences if you choose not to manifest as an animal and you want to remain human. The new owner rules as the llama god, and as long as you join the cult and if it's an animal, you're safe. So Günther recalls his life and his part in the birth of the after death industry, and as he is struggling to protect his world against against this merger. The interesting thing about this book for me is the story is told like a character study, like Citizen Kane, and you did find out what about Rosebud at the very end, but it's more like what is different about a virtual reality that might actually aid in a catharsis or an ability to kind of see, where you became the person, why you became the person that you became.
Okay.
And this happens because he's able to access memories from when he was a toddler that he wasn't able to, he wouldn't be able to, or probably wouldn't in his physical life. And excuse me, I'm losing my train of thought, I'm sorry. Also, he comes to terms with who the father that he really loves, who that person is. So it's kind of how on first glance you think of mind uploading and the technology involved, and you can see everything that can go wrong. But in this case, works the other way in terms of character development.
Okay. Now, Marjorie, how autobiographical are your characters in your novels? I mean, how much of your own life experience do you inject into your characters?
In terms of my two science fiction novels, I wouldn't say a lot. They're basically influenced by my love of science fiction and my and the intrigue that I feel when I read about a new discovery. I want to know what are the real life advantages or developments that can come from that. And because I spent so much time of my own in film and reading, you become very used to having living in a virtual reality inside your head.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I'm just going to say the Demon Rift did start as a family story.
Oh wow!
I had a great uncle. It's like a horror story. I had a great uncle, Arthur, who was said to have died in a famous Ohio prison fire in the 1920s, but it wasn't true. But still, it was such a notoriously awful fire that a lot of men died, and it's because the cell doors didn't open. And I started thinking about it, and I wondered if they had rebuilt it. And this was before I was writing, but it's a parking lot, or it was a parking lot back then, and there were reports of ghosts, of course. And I thought, what a good ghost story someone could tell, but it's hard to make a ghost story in a parking lot. So I thought, well, maybe a shopping mall would be a better fit. And I was talking to her with one of my sisters, and she said, "Yeah, the mall from hell." I was friends with a screenwriter, and we co-wrote a script. First time I've ever done that. And later, when I started to teach, and I needed a creative outlet that didn't involve a lesson plan, I decided to try turning it into a novel, a YA novel. I was teaching at Garfield High School, the school where Stand and Deliver happened, and they ate me alive. But there were boxes of donated paperbacks, and I decided to turn them all into a YA novel, and the best laid plans were DOA, because I'm not I just can't write that way. However, I discovered I was a novelist. It's not a YA one. Okay. And I remember, I'm sorry?
No, go ahead.
I remembered my grandfather's stories about being a charity kid in a Cleveland orphanage. And things started to open up because I started with the same scene of the prison fire and this evil old guy and everything. And when I started to write the novel, I started asking why was he evil? What did he? What happened to him? And so all of a sudden I was in England at a ceremony, ritual for the Hermetic, the Hermetic, something for the Golden Dawn, I can't remember the name of it. And there was a ceremony going on, and they were calling forth some demons, and there's a pregnant servant girl, and one of the demons infected her baby, and that became the bad guy. So, it allowed me to do research and discover histories and settings so I had this array of characters that it was just, it was like a big dollhouse.
Okay.
So, anyway.
Yeah. I mean,
it's also part of a novel that I wrote. It has about 15,000 words on it. It's waiting for me. I have to write another one first, and it's a genre story about a woman who's plagued by a family of demigods.
Okay.
Anyway,
since you worked in the past in movies, have you ever tried to translate any of your novels into a screenplay?
No, as I said, it went the other way with The Mall from Hell. And I always was intrigued by the mall culture of the early aughts, and so I think it would make a good novel. You could make a great series out of it, but I mean, I don't have the context anymore. I didn't really then. I was kind of a worker bee in casting, and I always. I like every writer, I have the movie totally cast in my head. This all three of them. The last two, the two science fiction ones, really would be better if they waited until the not the 3D, but the virtual reality of, filmmaking, which I think they're starting to do, I believe. I know that the subject of virtual reality is starting to catch fire. I mean, there's the series Upload on Prime, and I was reading about some more. There's even a Church of... what's it called? Church of Eternal Life, or where people think that we're going to live forever in virtual reality, and that's where we should be. But and there's Lawnmower Man and the Johnny Depp one, which I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah.
But anyway, so it's cast in my head, and I do have the advantage that I did work in casting, so my imaginary casting is better than other people's.
Okay.
So
let's talk about you, Marjorie. Where were you born and raised, and where did you go to school and later college?
Okay. I was born in Sacramento, but we moved to Memphis, Tennessee when I was 3 years old.
Ooh.
And we lived there until I was 10. And then we moved to Kentucky. My dad had injured himself at work, and there was no workman's comp back then. And my mom went to work as a secretary while my father parked cars. I think it was the happiest time of my mom's life when she got to work. But then my dad found employment as a chicken inspector for the USDA. And we moved to a small town in Kentucky.
Okay.
And there was a library there that I walked to every Saturday. And I explored. And then when I was 14, my father transferred to Southern California, and it was really exciting because there would be palm trees. For some reason, that was the height of glamour in my mind. And there were girls who, it was a culture shock. Ultimately, we moved to Hermosa Beach, and I finished high school at Redondo Beach High School. And a point of interest was I was in my English class for 2 years with one of the Manson girls, and we were on a play together. And I liked her, and it was kind of sad of what happened to her later.
Okay. Now, tell us about your casting director work. How did you get involved in that? I mean, what is it exactly does it entail? I mean, how does that work? I'm always curious about that.
Well, see, I have a degree from UCLA in theater. I trained as an actor, And, I was an actor for a hot minute and got a few roles. And then I married a doctor and moved to Reno. When I was in Reno, I discovered that there are movies that come through, and they need people. They need extras, they need stand-ins, and they need day players on occasion. And so I, with 3 other people, formed Nevada Casting Group, and that's what we did. Whenever a production would come through, we would make our deals and make sure that they had what they needed. And we worked on a lot of amazing projects that included Misery.
Ooh, wow.
That was just a joy to work on. There was no friction. What a lovely man he was, and I'm so sorry what happened. Father's Day, and on Paul Thomas Anderson's, I think it was his second movie, but it was his first one where there was some buzz around it, which was Heart 8. And so I worked with him when he was just starting, and he had a screening for Heart 8, and on the walls of the theater there were posters for Boogie Nights coming up. And I realized that I said, I guess I can say I knew you when. And I did. And it was very nice. And The Bodyguard and Cobb. And, of course, Showgirls. We did quite a bit of work on Showgirls.
Okay. Wow.
And, we did. I casted 8 players, which, were again, the actors was 5 lines and unders. And the rest of the team got to go up to Tahoe and pull people off the streets in a blizzard to fill up the audience. When they were doing the big production numbers.
Yeah.
So that was an adventure and a half. There was all kinds of stories I could tell you, but I'm not going to. What?
Okay. Marjorie, where can readers find your books, and do you have a website?
Yes, I have a website. People can find my books on Amazon. They're all on Amazon, and my website is mknobleauthor.com.
Okay. Last question, Marjorie. What is your next book project, and when can we expect its release?
My next project is the third in this series. So the second book is The Dark Side of Dreams, which I just released. And then this third one will be Dream Voyagers. And so it will be the book that follows The Dark Side of Dreams. And I'm hoping to release it in the summer of 27.
Okay. Marge, I want to thank you so much for appearing on the show, and I wish you the best of luck on your future book projects, okay?
Thank you so much.
You take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen, for next week's show, where I'll be interviewing author Antonia Casella. Thank you and good night.